The suffragettes went to all that trouble to get the vote was because they wanted to, they themselves, be treated as grown-ups and decide their own destiny.
How on earth does handing over more power and more money every single year to a failing, corrupt institution like the EU make Britain any stronger? In what universe is handing over control of our country to people who we didn't elect, who don't represent us, a good idea? To what problem is the EU a solution for your future, for your children's future, for the future of a free and prosperous Britain? On June 23rd, vote Leave.
We're back live on the Alex Jones Show now. There was an interesting story, which I wrote about a few days ago, the apparent cover-up of a rape of a little girl in Idaho by Muslim migrants. The people there in that town got up in front of the city council, basically played hell with them, demanded answers. They were shut down at every turn. We're going to get to a John Bown report about that, which is up on Infowars.com here in a minute. So we're going to get to that. That article was wildly popular, and people are demanding answers on it because they got up in front of the town council and they basically just called them racist for asking questions about it. So let me know when we got that report ready. But another article up on Infowars.com. This is Kit Daniels. Media agrees Hillary funded by anti-gay regimes still calls it a conspiracy theory. Of course, we had the big Trump speech a couple of days ago where he, in this blistering speech, called out Hillary for, 20% of her campaign being funded by the likes of Saudi Arabia, who execute homosexuals, who stone women to death, who don't allow women to drive. The supposed feminist Hillary Clinton. Well, now, despite admitting Hillary Clinton took money from Saudi Arabia and other anti-woman regimes while serving as the Secretary of State, the mainstream media still claims it's a conspiracy theory. In what's perhaps the most hypocritical article of the campaign, Slate's Jeremy Stahl confirmed the Clinton Foundation raked in millions from anti-gay monarchs and other third-world dictators. But not only did he question whether it was a conflict of interest, Stahl also failed to acknowledge the hypocrisy of a Democratic candidate taking donations from countries that behead gays and stone women. This is a quote from the article. It's true that Bill and Hillary Clinton's foundation did take between $10 million and $25 million from Saudi Arabia and millions more from other regimes and political actors that oppressed the rights of women, gays, and religious minorities, Stahl wrote. Trump has demanded that the foundation return the money. Whether or not this was an actual conflict of interest when Clinton served as Secretary of State, it certainly contributes to a general sense that the Clintons are too enmeshed with too many wicked people to clean themselves. So we've still got that controversy rumbling on, and now even, typically left-wingers are asking questions about it. Let's move on now, though, because we've got the Wall Street Journal reporting in a big article today. Population of non-whites grows. White Americans no longer account for the majority in hundreds of counties across the U.S. This is by Jeanette Adamy out of the Wall Street Journal. White Americans no longer account for the majority in hundreds of counties across the U.S., a trend transforming America's social and political landscape as Latinos, Asians, and blacks outpace white population growth, according to census figures out Thursday. In 370 counties across 36 states and the District of Columbia, non-Hispanic whites accounted for less than half of the population as of July 2015. That includes 31 additional counties since 2010, such as those encompassing Fort Worth and Austin in Texas, Charlotte, Savannah, and parts of suburban Atlanta and Sacramento, California. So again, big government likes people who vote for more big government. That's why they're encouraging this trend. That's why you've got the Obama administration now encouraging minorities to move into typically white areas so they can begin to overturn those voting majorities. They don't care about these people. It's all about politics. It's completely cynical. Now we've got Fox News reporting anatomy of terror threat. Files show hundreds of U.S. plots, refugee connection. Newly obtained congressional data shows hundreds of terror plots have been stopped in the U.S. since 9/11, mostly involving foreign-born suspects, including dozens of refugees. So you've had that, that media narrative again even after Orlando. We saw the editing of the transcript of the shooter, Omar Mateen, to excise, to delete the fact that he praised Allah, that he dedicated the attack to ISIS. Again, we had this whole narrative, Islamic terror is not the threat, right-wingers with guns are the threat. But now this new report shows, it makes clear, this is a quote, that the United States not only lacks the ability to properly screen individuals prior to their arrival, but also that our nation has an unprecedented assimilation problem, said Senator Jeff Sessions. Among the 580 convicted, at least 380 in these terror plots were foreign-born. The top countries of origin were Pakistan, Lebanon, and Somalia, as well as the Palestinian territories. So again, after every single Islamic terror attack, we get this drumbeat of propaganda that Islam is not the problem, that radical jihadists are not the problem, that it's the American people who are the problem because they have weapons. Again, another report that completely debunks that narrative. Now, of course, on the subject of gun control, we had the Democratic sit-in yesterday. This is up on Infowars.com from Steve Watson, GOP rep. Dems are holding gun control sit-in to strip rights away. As Democrats occupied the House Wednesday and staged a sit-in to push for action on gun control legislation, critics lambasted them for their actions, with one GOP rep calling the action a disgrace. This is Rep. Mark Walker, quote, calling this sit-in is a disgrace to Woolworths, referring to the infamous civil rights protest sit-ins that took place in the 1960s. So he's lambasting them for conducting sit-ins that actually take rights away from people. Of course, the first gun control laws were against black people. Now, we also had Charlie Rangel, who consistently calls for the draft and all kinds of horrible proposals, saying that regular law-abiding citizens shouldn't need to carry a gun, but Democratic lawmakers deserve gun protection. This is out of Gateway Pundit, Dem lawmaker. Law-abiding citizens just shouldn't need a gun. Again, you don't get to protect yourself, but the elite do. So he came out with these comments again, proving that he's a complete hypocrite. But unlike others who refuse to even mention the fact that they're protected by armed Secret Service, by armed security, he just came out and brazenly said, yeah, we're better than you. We're the political class. We get to be protected. You don't. The common pleb scum. You can sit there like sitting ducks in your gun-free zones and be left completely defenseless. But many in the LGBT community are refusing to be left defenseless. This is another article out of Gateway Pundit. Hundreds turn out for LGBT firearms classes in Texas. Now, again, we had reports out of the New York Post last week. Firearms sales, I mean, they always surge after a major shooting, after the Democrats try to institute more gun control. But now it's amongst the LGBT community. And in fact, the video we played last week on the Alex Jones Show, where I actually reached out to the gay community and said that you've been abandoned by the left. They've chosen Islam over protecting your lives. That reached a lot of people. I mean, I got so many positive messages from people within that community thanking me and saying that they'd changed their votes over to Trump. We saw mainstream media reports, we saw op-eds by people in the LGBT community saying that they too had made that choice. Well, now we've got armed classes, defense classes being run for the LGBT community specifically in relation to the aftermath of the tragedy in Orlando, and people are signing up for them in droves. This is out of Click to Houston. One look at this hole-filled paper target, and you can see Ryan Thomas is a great shot. He has had his concealed handgun license for 2 years. Thomas also happens to be gay. After Sunday's shooting, he had an idea. He wanted to make sure his LGBT brothers and sisters were protected. Thomas talked to his friends at the Shiloh gun range in northwest Harris County, and now they're offering free firearms classes to the LGBT community. This is a quote from Jeff Sanford, the owner of the Shiloh Indoor Shooting Range. He said, quote, "We want to make them aware they can come here, they can feel safe here, they can get their concealed handgun license or their license to carry, and they can carry a gun, and they can feel good about it." So again, if one positive thing came out of the terrible tragedy in Orlando, was a lot of people within that LGBT community finally realizing that the regressive left has abandoned them. Again, in the oppression Olympics, they've placed the importance of not hurting Muslims' feelings over protecting the lives of gay people. And so many positive messages have poured in since I made that video. So a lot of people are getting the point. Of course, the LGBT establishment will never get it, will never change their tack, because they're intimately tied in with the Democratic establishment. But if you're talking about individuals in that community, Orlando has really changed a lot. And now they're arming themselves, they're protecting themselves, and that can only be a good thing. Third officer acquitted in Freddie Gray case. Marilyn Mosby goes 0-3. Police officer Caesar Goodson Jr. was acquitted in his second-degree murder trial today in the latest trial against 6 police officers in the death of Freddie Gray. Baltimore State Attorney Marilyn Mosby charged 6 local police officers with murder and manslaughter in the death of serial criminal Freddie Gray on May the 1st, 2015. And again, 3 of these officers are black. And another one has been acquitted because of lack of evidence. Will we see riots on the streets of Baltimore just like we saw last year? Well, they've been threatened. Authorities are preparing for them, but thankfully nothing so far. But again, another officer acquitted in the death of Freddie Gray. Again, another bellwether case that was hijacked by Black Lives Matter and by criminals, by thugs, by gangsters, to riot on the streets, to burn down the homes of their black neighbors. For what? For absolutely no cause whatsoever. So we'll see if there's any more trouble on the streets of Baltimore. Thankfully, the last acquittal didn't prove to be the case, but we'll continue to watch that. After the break, we're going to get into this report. Shock report. Blacks commit 11 times more homicides than whites in America. Yes, it's more of those racist statistics that people point to try and stop this epidemic of black-on-black violence. How dare they? So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into John Bound's report on the rape of a little girl in Idaho. The residents furious, asking questions about that. And another report, another special report from Alex Jones himself. This is the Alex Jones Show Live, breaking news at Infowars.com. We are back on the Alex Jones Show Live, and before we hit some more news here, I want to draw your attention to the Tim Kennedy special at InfoWarsLife.com. This is 15% off Super Male Vitality, Brain Force, and Secret 12, so you can get 15% off all 3 products as part of our partnership with Special Forces operator and UFC fighter Tim Kennedy. We're giving you 15% off on the top InfoWars Life formulas used by Tim Kennedy. Get 15% off on Super Male Vitality, Brain Force, and Secret 12 at InfoWarsLife.com right now for a limited time. These are the products, and you've seen him on the show talk about them, that Tim Kennedy uses in his Special Forces and UFC training that help him get to the next level. All 3 products have hundreds of 5-star reviews and contain the known herbs that help boost the body naturally. Now is the time to stock up and get our top products for 15% off at InfoWarsLife.com. Visit InfoWarsLife.com and get on the Tim Kennedy InfoWars Life routine with Super Male Vitality, Brain Force, and Secret 12 at InfoWarsLife.com. And of course, we have InfoWarsStore.com, where you can get the Hillary for Prison t-shirts. Again, massive discounts on all those products. Vital that you fuel our coffers, that you fire our campaign to challenge the mainstream media, to become the real media as trust in mainstream media declines, as the legacy media collapses. We're not funded by George Soros. We're not funded by giant transnational pharmaceutical companies. We're funded by you and you only. So please get the products at InfoWarsLife.com and InfoWarsStore.com. Now, the Pope is talking about Muslim migration and how great it is once again. This is out of Breitbart. Accompanied by migrants, Pope Francis says, a Christian lets everybody come. Oh, really? Even if some of the people that are coming, they're going to radical preachers who are telling them, let's destroy Christianity, let's take over Europe, let's outbreed Europeans. Are we going to let those people come? In a striking gesture, Pope Francis invited 14 African migrants to join him on the steps of St. Peter's Basilica, urging Europe to open its doors to more refugees. because, 1.4 million in Germany alone, that's just not enough. How many are we going to take?